Good morning, my dear students.
Good morning.
Yes, in our last lecture we dealt with the issues of learning styles. Yeah, you know, what do you mean by learning style? So by learning style we mean some individual techniques that we usually use while learning the second language. Yeah. So, first of all, learning styles differ in terms of individuality and some techniques, yeah? Okay, so now, as you can see on the screen, our today's topics is strategies in learning language. And this very topic will be very important for you because you are all involved in the language learning process as well as in the language teaching process. I guess that some students has an experience in teaching English. I mean, young learners, yeah?
Yes.
Maybe your sisters, your brothers, and so on. So now, I would like to start with what? With the outline of our lecture. Roughly, I have divided my lecture into 4 parts. You see?
Yes.
So, what issues we are going to discuss? First of all, I will concentrate on the notion of strategy. What do we understand by strategy in itself? Yeah, and I want you to express your opinions, your ideas concerning this very notion. Yeah. Okay. Then we'll move on to discussing strategies in second language acquisition. Yeah. First, we'll be discussing strategies in general, and then we'll move on to discussing them in relation to second language acquisition. Okay? Next. The next point, we will be covering strategies. First, we'll be covering learning strategies. And within the scope of learning strategies, we will deal with some subtypes of learning strategies. The same goes for the next point, communication strategies. Because in general, in relation to second language acquisition, there are 2 basic strategies, learning strategies and communication strategies. Yeah? The same goes for communication strategies, and within the scope of communication strategies, we will focus on some subtypes of communication strategies, like it may be like some compensatory strategies and so on. Okay, let me move on to our first point. What is strategy? Yeah. Okay. First, I would like to know your ideas concerning the term strategy. The notion of strategy. What do you understand by strategy itself? We'll express your ideas about that. Any comments on this term? What do you understand by strategy?
A plan of directing overall military operations and movements.
Okay, yeah. Now you are highlighting the military aspect of the problem, yeah? Because strategy is considered to be one of the arts in military. Yeah. Okay. Then, any ideas concerning the strategy, the definition? What's the general definition of this notion? You please.
Strategy is a method or plan chosen bring to about desired future, such as achievement of goal or such as problems.
Okay, good. This is the general understanding of strategy compared to the first student's idea. She focused on its specific understanding, yeah, within the scope of military service, yeah. But you are highlighting its general understanding. What about other students? Have any ideas about this very term strategy? No ideas? No? Okay. Let's move on to discussing the following definitions of strategy. Yeah? Okay. As for me, I absolutely agree with the idea, with the definitions that you have expressed right now. But now let me outline the basic definitions of strategy, yeah? And these very definitions cover both general and specific aspects of this notion. First, strategy is treated as a general plan or a set of plans intended to achieve something, especially over a long period. You see what is highlighted in this definition? The basic idea that it is a general plan and it is used to achieve something, right?
Yes.
Next, the second definition of this term: plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Is that clear?
Yeah.
These two definitions have so much in common, but here we can say about what? That it is designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So the concluding definition of this term: the art of planning, the best way to gain an advantage or achieve success. As you see, their definition corresponds to the definition given by you. So especially in military, yeah, in war, because the strategy is considered to be one of the arts of planning the military actions. Is that clear? So, you see, now let's summarize all the above given definitions, and we can point out some common features, yeah, that unite these very definitions. First of all, that all of the given definitions point out what? That definition as strategy is a plan or a planning. Is that clear?
Yes.
The next, the second thing, the second common feature is that this very plan is used to achieve something. Achieve something, achieve an aim, and achieve success. Is that clear? So the two basic common features, that it is planning, and this very planning is used to achieve something. And now later we will be talking about these notions in terms of second language acquisition, because while learning second language, we should make use of some strategies, yeah, in order to achieve goal. A fluent speech, good vocabulary, and so on. Good grammar, yeah? So let me move on to the next slide. So, these are some other definitions of strategy, yeah? And for example, strategies are also understood as specific methods of approaching a problem or task, yeah? Approaching a problem. So for example, different students can use different strategies. And of course, strategies are of individual character. So, modes of operation for achieving a particular end, plan designs for controlling and manipulating certain information. You see, within this very definition, the basic idea that it is a specific method of approaching a problem or task. The next definition. Next point. Strategies are contextualized battle plans that might vary from moment to moment, or day to day, or year to year. Yeah? Let's apply this very definition to the language learning acquisition, language acquisition process. Why? Because, for example, within the beginner's level, you may use this or that strategies, yeah? But when you achieve, for example, advanced level, your strategies may greatly vary. You can choose some other strategies. Yeah. That's why. So they may vary from moment to moment, to day, or from year to year. Or we can add what? They may, in terms of language learning process, they may vary from level to level. Yeah? Is that clear?
Yes.
Do you agree with me? Okay, next. Strategies vary individually. It's a very important thing that each of us has a number of possible ways to solve a particular problem. And we choose one or several in sequence for a given problem. Is that clear? So, by strategies, we mean when we tend to use some possible ways to solve this or that problem. For example, it may be a vocabulary problem, a grammar problem, and so on. Is that clear? Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Strategies in second language acquisition. So this is the second point of our lecture. Now we will be considering strategies in second language acquisition, or in terms of second language learning process. You know? First, strategies are viewed as specific attacks, attacks that we make on a given problem. Yeah? It is close to the above given definition, like a specific method of approaching a problem. Yeah? But here we use that is a specific attack that we make on a given problem. Yeah? They are the moment-by-moment techniques that we employ to solve problems posed by second language input and output. So this is very important. Now I would like to focus on what? On these two basic notions. Second language input and second language output. Because these two notions determine the types of strategies. For example, if we speak of second language input, we should mention of learning strategies. Yeah? By second language input, what do we understand by second language input? Second language input, it is the data or the information that we get while learning English, while learning a second language. It may be the data about grammar, about vocabulary, about style, about some constructions, collocations, proverbs, sayings, and so on. This is what? Second language input. But in addition, what for do you get this word information? Because you should use them in your speech, in communication, and in that case you will be dealing with the second language output, or with the product of your of your learning. As a result of your learning, you should what? Speak in English. You should make up sentences, and you should use them in speech, in communication, and this is called second language output. So these are the sentences, the words, the text that you can produce in the second language. Is that clear? So, taking into account these two factors, we can point out, we can distinguish between two strategies in second language acquisition. The first is learning strategies and communication strategies. So, learning strategies are concerned with the second language input, or processing, storage, retrieval, that is taking a message from others. Is that clear? Everything that you get from the second language, all the information concerning its grammar, structure, language structure, vocabulary, and so on. Then communication strategies relate to input. So those sentences, utterances that you produce. Is that clear?
Yes.
Because you may productively express meaning and how we deliver messages to others. Okay?
Yeah.
So, all together, all in all, we have two types of strategies. What? Learning and communication strategies. And they are concerned with what? Second language input and second language output. Is that clear?
Yes.
No questions concerning this very part of the lecture? Okay, next. First, now, while speaking, while talking about the strategies in language learning, we should outline some basic characteristics that determine a good language learner. And Rubin and Thompson pointed out 14 basic characteristics of good language learners, and they pointed out these very characteristics in terms of language learning strategies. Is that clear? First, what? The first will be a good language learner should be able to find his own way, take charge of their community. So any language learner actually should have his own style, individual style in learning language, because his individual approach to this or that problem may be characterized by the use of some techniques, strategies, and so on. Learning styles, right?
Yes.
Okay, next. Organize information about language. Because you, while learning a second language, in particular English, you may face tons of information. And you should organize this information, systematize this information. For example, information about grammar, about language structure, it must be well structured in your mind. Is that clear? So, the next. And of course, any language learner, especially but here, a good language learner, has to be creative. Good? And should be able to develop his own feel for the language. Yes. Because you should develop feeling for the language, and as a result of creativeness. Is that clear? Not just you should follow some rules, of course, but at the same time, in addition, you should be creative. And you should develop your feeling for the language. Next will be good language learners should make their own opportunities for practicing English. Why? What do you mean by that? Because it may be practicing inside the classroom or outside the classroom. For example, to be a good speaker of English, you should practice English not only in the classroom, but also outside, in different kinds of situations. You should speak English as much as possible. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. With your friends, maybe with your sisters, brothers, and so on. Next, learn to live with uncertainty by not getting flustered. So, I will be brief. While learning English, you may face lots of difficulties. And you should not confuse. You should not be worried about them. You should get over these obstacles. Is that clear? Yes. Next. This next very important thing is a good learner should use mnemonics and other memory strategies. So by mnemonics we mean what? A set of rules that are used to develop the memory. Is that clear? So because while learning second language, you may face difficulties with what? With vocabulary, because you should be able to keep them in mind, the new words, and you should use some techniques, memory strategies to keep these words in your mind, not to forget them. Is that clear? Okay. The next, make errors for them and not against them. Because if you make mistakes, you should not confuse about that. It's a very good thing, because you should work on your mistakes, and your mistake will serve you as a basis for developing your English. Yeah?
Yes.
Next, using linguistic knowledge, including the knowledge of the first language in learning a second language, because you are native speakers of Kazakh, yeah?
Yes.
Or some other languages. So that's why, while learning the second language, you should draw parallels between the first language, native language, and the second language. And you should compare these very languages. You should be able to find some common features and some specific features. Is that clear? Okay, next. Use contextual cues to help them in comprehension. So you should be able to use some expressions, set phrases, cliches that may be used in different situations, in different contexts. Like, nice to meet you, something like this, yeah? Some cliches. The expressions that are usually given in the bilingual dictionaries, yeah? And so on. Learn to make intelligent guesses. You should be able to predict something. Is that clear? Then, learn chimes of language as well as formalized routines to help them perform beyond their competence. So you should be able to use all the opportunities of the language, and you should be able to summarize all the given information. The next, learn certain tricks that help to keep conversations going. Is that clear? So, because while speaking English, yeah, for example, just imagine the situation, you are talking with some native speakers of English, and you should not stop. You should do all your best to keep the conversation going, yeah? And in that case, you may use different kinds of strategies, or so-called tricks, yeah? Like, for example, some avoidance strategies. If you don't know this or that word, you should be able to use its synonyms or the words that are close in meaning. Is that clear? So next, learn certain production strategies to fill in gaps in their own competence. Because anyway, there might be gaps, yeah, and you should fill in these gaps. Next, learn different styles of speech. The concluding characteristics is very important one, because you should know about the styles of the language, or functional styles, or registers of the language. For example, formal or informal register, yeah?
Yeah.
Or media style, official document style, conversational, colloquial English. Is that clear? Scientific or academic style. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Because you should be aware of these styles, of the signals of these styles. Okay? Next. Learning strategies. So now we are moving to the next point of our lecture, learning strategies. So, first, because as I have mentioned of the two types of strategies, and they are as follows, like learning strategies and communication strategies. Good. Now, we will be discussing learning strategies. Yeah? So, roughly learning strategies may be divided into cognitive strategies and socio-affective strategies. So, cognitive strategies are those strategies that are connected with our cognition. Yeah? Yeah? And as for socio-affective strategies, they are concerned with communication. Yeah? With everyday communication. Yeah? Okay, now let's analyze them in detail. First, the first learning strategy or cognitive strategy is deduction. So, what we understand by deduction? You know, it's a philosophical term, but here, within the scope of learning strategies, it is what? It is retracting something. When we know some rules, and we should use this rule as a basis for producing sentences.
In the second language?
Yeah, in the second language. Is that clear? Or applying rules to produce or understand the second language. Yeah? Like, for example, I wish construction. Yeah?
Yes.
You know the rules about these constructions,
Yes.
and you should be able to apply these rules to producing or understanding second language. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So it is called deduction. Okay. The next point is recombination. So it is what? It is constructing a meaningful sentence or a larger language sequence by combining known elements in a new way. So you should be creative, and you should be able to combine this or that words with some other words, yeah, in a new way, not just in the way that is given in the books, yeah, but you should be able to combine some words with other words. Is that clear? And this is called recombination. It is concerned with your creativeness, yeah, with your ability to produce utterances, sentences, and so on. Word combinations. Next, imagery. You know the word image, yeah? Image, the picture of something. So, how is it related to learning strategies? So, first of all, you should be able to relate some new information to visual images, yeah? And some, you know, that some students, some learners of English may visualize this or that information with the help of images. Yeah? Okay, and this is considered to be one of the learning strategies. Okay? Next, auditory representation. Auditory representation, it is what? Retention of the sound or similar sound for a word, phrase, or longer language sequence. Is that clear? So, when we repeat some sounds, and these very sounds similar to some other words, yeah? Okay. Next, keyword. You know the keyword,
Yes.
the basic word, yeah? The leading word. And remembering a new word in the second language. First of all, you can identify a familiar word in the first language that sounds like or resembles the new word in the second language. Yeah? And so on. You should draw so-called parallels between two languages in terms of sound similarities. Okay, next, contextualization. Context. So, by context, we understand what? When some words combine with other words, and this is called context, yeah?
Yes.
The use of the words in the text, yeah? And the ability to combine some word with some, this or that word with some other word. So, for example, placing a word or phrase in a meaningful language sequence. Okay, next, elaboration. By elaboration, we understand relating new information to other concepts in memory. Yeah? Because, for example, we should link some information, new information, with some context. Yeah? We should be able to find links between the information and some basic concept. Okay, next. Transfer, you know, this word. So, using previously acquired linguistic or conceptual knowledge to facilitate a new language learning task. So, it is what? Transfer. Then, you have some information, yeah, about these or that problems, and then you should be able to use this information to solve other problems. Yeah? Next, it's a kind of transition. Yeah? Next, inferencing. It's a very important thing. By inferencing, we understand what? When it is the act of making conclusion on the basis of the information that you have already kept, on the basis of evidence and so on. Is that clear? It is the ability to make conclusions. Okay? Next. The next is what? cooperation. Within the socio-active strategies, we can point out cooperation and questions for clarification. So cooperation, so when you work in groups, yeah, in pairs, yeah, with your friends, with your group mates, and you practice speaking, writing, something else, yeah? And when we are work in groups. The next questions for clarification. If you understand, if you don't understand something, or if you want to know more information about something, you can ask your teacher to explain that, or you can ask what? You can ask some native speakers of English, yeah, to clarify this or that word, this or that construction. Okay? So altogether, these are learning strategies. Now, next, communication strategies. Yeah? So, what about communication strategies? By communication strategies, we mean what? First of all, they are opposed to learning strategies. Yeah? And as you know, communication strategies are concerned with what? Second language output or input? Output. Yeah? So, production. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. While learning strategies deal with the receptive domain of intake or input, yeah? Memory, storage, and recall. Communication strategies pertain to the employment of verbal or non-verbal mechanisms for the productive communication of information. Is that clear? In general, communication strategies are viewed as potentially conscious plans for solving what to an individual presents itself as a problem in reaching a particular communicative goal. Is that clear? So now we will be discussing the two basic types of communication strategies. These are avoidance strategies and compensatory strategies. Yeah? Okay, let me make comments on each of the strategies. For example, within the avoidance strategies, so avoidance strategies, then you do all your best to solve the problem. Yeah? Is that clear? And then you try to use some tricks to solve the problem. Yeah? For example, circumlocution. What do I understand by circumlocution? Describing or exemplifying the targeted object of action. For example, you don't know this or that word, like the word called screw, yeah? And you don't know this word. But in communication, while talking with the native speaker of English, you should be able to express its meaning if you don't know its exact name. In that case, you can use the explanatory definition of this word. Yeah? For example, the thing you open bottles with. Is that clear? So, this is circumlocution. Okay? Yeah? Next, approximation. When if you don't know this or that word, for example, but you know some other word that is closer to this concept, and you can use some other word. For example, instead of the word sailboat, you can use the word ship. But I'm sure that all of you know this word, yeah? Ship. So, this is called approximation. The use of the word with that which is close in meaning. Yeah, close in meaning. Okay, next. Use of all-purpose words. Of all-purpose words, but all abstract words. The words like thing, device, and so on. For example, this thing is used to, yeah? Is that clear? These are general words. Okay? Or the words like action, thing, device, and so on. Doing, yeah? Performing. These are all-purpose words. The next, word coinage. By word coinage, what do I understand by word? So, for example, sometimes you don't know these or that word, and in that case, some learners of English may create their own words. Yeah? For example, vegetarianist instead of vegetarian. In English, you should say vegetarian, but you don't know the exact form of this word, you just know the root of this word, because in your native language you know this word. And that's why you try to use this word in second language, but you use it incorrectly. But as a result, you create a new word form, yeah? Like vegetarian. So it is considered to be one of the types of avoidance strategies. Yeah? Okay. Next, compensatory strategies. By compensatory strategies, what we understand by compensatory strategies? These are the strategies that are used to compensate maybe for missing information. Yeah, the information that you left. For example, prefabricated patterns or cliches, set expressions or phrases. For example, what is your name? Nice to meet you. Good luck. Yeah, these are prefabricated patterns, and as usual, they are given in some bilingual dictionaries. Yeah, is that clear? And you tend to use them in different situations. For example, there might be prefabricated patterns that are used in in everyday communication, that are used in shopping, yeah?
Yes.
That are used, for example, in the library, yeah? Is that clear? Restaurant and so on. Next, literal translation. What do we understand by literal translation? Translating literally a lexical item, idiom, compound. It is a word-for-word translation. Is that clear? Word-for-word. For example, when you don't know the equivalent of this or that expression or saying or proverb of saying, and in that case, you have to use word-for-word translation. Yeah? Is that clear? Yes. Okay, next. Foreignizing. It is using language 1 word by adjusting it to language 2 phonology. When you mixed sound system of both languages, first language and second language. Is that clear? Okay. Next, as a result, for example, this or that word become foreignized. Next, code switching. Code switching. You know, language is generally understood as a code. Yeah, code. And the speaker usually sends this code and a message, and you should decode this code. You should decode this message. That's why, while speaking, we may deal with code switching when using a language 1 word with a language 1 pronunciation, or a language 3 word with language 3 pronunciation. Is that clear? So, okay, next will be appeal for help. For example, asking for aid from your teacher or from the native speaker of English about the meaning of this or that word, about some collocations, some correct forms, and so on. Is that clear? Yeah. Okay. And next, stalling or time gaining strategies. It's a very interesting thing. Yeah, so-called fillers. For example, you should be good speakers of English. You should speak English fluently. Yeah. In that case, you should use all possible ways to speak fluently, and your speech should not be full of stops. Yeah? In that case, you can use some tricks that, for example, fillers. For example, you are talking about something, but you don't know remember something, yeah? And in that case, there might be a pause. And you should fill in this pause with some words like, well, actually, yeah,
and then
let's speak, yeah? Is that clear? But if even, not the word, but if you, for example, in terms of logic, we cannot remember something, but and there might be some emotional pause, yeah?
Yes.
Because you are nervous about something. And in that case, you should use some fillers, like actually, or what? Well, now let's see, next, something like this. Yeah? Is that clear? Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, all together, all in all, these are two basic, what? Compensatory strategies. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for our lecture, and it is okay. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. I'm ready to answer your questions.
No.
So, okay, let's summarize some basic points. So, okay, today we dealt with what? With the learning with strategies. And strategies
And the communication.
Strategies of
maybe
learning
of
and
two
strategies.
types. What types?
Learning strategies and communication strategies.
Learning strategies and communication strategies. Okay. How about learning strategies? How will we define learning strategies?
Includes
So
in
learning
some parts
strategies are used in producing.
Yes.
Are used what? In producing speech, utterances, and so on. Yeah.
Yes.
So in getting the information. I'm sorry, but communication strategies are used in producing sentences, utterances. So
In communication.
learning strategies are concerned with the second language input, the information we get, yeah, and communication strategies are concerned with our second language output. Thank you for attention. Okay.
Bye-bye.